Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live repair video. And I have changed outfits, so I match the same outfit I was wearing when Martin was visiting a couple weeks ago with a machine that I built for him over 4 years ago. And what happened was the original power supply that was selected for that build failed after 4 years and 2 months, and it had a 5-year warranty from Corsair. Then that previous video diagnosed and verified it is the power supply, disconnected what we needed to and left most of the cable management in place to help make the repair happen faster. Had an RMA from Corsair that required logging onto Corsair's website and submitting to them the symptoms, at which point they asked for a copy of the original receipt. We were able to log into Newegg or to Amazon because they store your receipts for you. You just log in, pull that receipt up, make it a PDF file, and submitted that to them. They also wanted a picture of the top of the power supply, which had the lot code. Did that with the smartphone. They then issued an RMA number. I packed the power supply and just the power supply, no cables. You don't need the original box or anything like that. Put that in a box, shipped it off to them. They had it about 3 or 4 days later. Got a confirmation another day or two after that. And then 3 or 4 days after that, they sent me a replacement power supply. And what they sent is a fully brand new power supply in the box, completely shrink wrapped. So even though Corsair said, don't send us all your cables, they sent us back cables. So now this customer's gonna have twice as many cables. That's not a bad thing. Clearly he's gonna have more cables than he needs, more cables that can be plugged in. But that also means if he misplaced his cables, he gets a do-over, which is pretty cool. I'm real happy that Corsair, when it comes to their RMAs, they are responsive, they're not full of excuses, they take care of business and they don't cut corners, and they're pretty quick about it. That's what I need when I'm selling computers to customers, because the customers want me to be quick about it. And I can't be held up by a manufacturer and expect my customer to feel any sympathy about that situation. That's why they come to me, to take care of them. So the power supply has come in, I'm gonna unbox it. I've got Martin's computer right here in the condition it was in as we left the video. I have this little glass I put all the spare screws in, so we know that those go to that system. You guys, you can see firsthand I got a lot of systems going on, I got a lot of repairs, I got a lot of builds. It's easy to mix up whose parts belong to who, or which screws belong to which system, so I have my own little system in place. And it helps to be OCD, to keep track of all of it. And if I keep going live for this many hours every day, I'm gonna have to change the title of my channel to Jenny Cam or something. Now there's a dated reference for you. Let's get the power supply out of the box. I'm talking quick and moving quick because I have another system after this. I've got to finish the wire, the cable management on, and then that one will be ready to be delivered. And then the system I just finished building, I got to figure out if they're providing the Windows license code or if they're getting it from me. I don't know yet. And then I have a build for a gentleman named Bill Bailey. Bill's in Oregon, and I'm gonna start his build hopefully tomorrow if I can get everything done tonight that I need to do. So I've got a few busy days ahead of me. And then I have a couple more customers beyond that, including Marty and Frank, Mark. Yeah, so hopefully everybody will be patient. You'll see I'm busting my butt. I'm getting it done as quick as I can. But I also don't want to jeopardize the quality of my work by working too quickly. Now, thankfully, this is super easy. This doesn't require a whole lot of talent or skill to replace a power supply. The talent and skill may be debatable as to defining that it was the power supply, but even that was pretty straightforward. So my thanks to Corsair for getting me an RMA number without asking me to do a bunch of ridiculous testing, for taking the power supply in quickly and replacing it quickly. I mean, look, they didn't overnight it to me, but it didn't matter. I've had it here for about a week now and I haven't had time to get around to it. So just the way they did it is perfect. Again, what they sent us is a fully boxed retail power supply, so we don't need most of this stuff. It's all duplication of what we already have. So I think I'm gonna keep the power cable for myself. Customer definitely doesn't need 2 of those. But I don't need any of these cables. The customer can have those. And the nylon zip ties certainly will keep. Even included the black screws for the power supply, which we don't need either because we're going to be using the screws that were already removed from there. See how I gave a customer 4 black screws because their power supply came with 4 silver screws and I wanted it to match. And now I just got the 4 black screws back. That's karma. That's even Stevens. I love it when things work out that way. So brand new power supply. Whatever warranty the customer had will be remaining on this new power supply. So if he bought it new, he'd get 5 years. But since it's a replacement, it's however many months he's got left to apply to this power supply, which is fair. And you know, if this one lasts another 4 years and 2 months, it'll be time for a new computer by then, because then that computer will be about 8 years old. And that seems to be about the magic number for systems I build these days. You can expect to get an average of 8 usable years out of them before they start feeling a bit long in the tooth, a bit slow, or if the capacity seems like it's a bit small. I expect that to take, based on the past, I expect that to take about 8 years. And that's not to say the system won't go longer than that, but it certainly should be the absolute minimum. For somebody who wants to get the most life out of their computer, it's a good investment. Used to be you'd buy a computer and every 18 months it was obsolete. We've come a long way since then. So like I said, if you're building along with me using the same components, I would expect you as well to be able to get 8 years. We even have a stock fan on this build, which I'm surprised about. I'm surprised I put a stock fan in there. But customer says it's great. So no need fixing something that ain't broke. If I can get the darn wire tie off. There's your desiccant. We know what I do with that. We throw it away, that's right. This power supply has very few plugs on the back. Remember, I thought the last one in the build video I just did had few, but that's because the motherboard power is already built in. This is what we call semi-modular. It's exactly the same as what we took out. It's exactly the same. And the benefit is we can just take these cables that were already managed and hooked up and plug them right back in the power supply. And apart from rerouting these 2 cables and running some nylon zip ties for those 2 cables, all the cable management stays in place, and it saves me a lot of. The worst part of building a computer for me is the cable management. That is the paperwork. You know, I don't like doing it. I like the way it looks when it's done. I like having done it. The best way I like to do cable management is to put headphones in and listen to my favorite music and just focus on the job. Doing it live on camera, I despise that because you guys can't see much, and it's hard for me to focus and concentrate when I know I'm being stared at. Try it sometime. So these 4 thumb screws are for the case panels. And then there's just 4 screws for the power supply. Well, that's super easy. There wasn't a lot there. So power supply is in, and now we're just secure it. I want to give a huge thank you to DHR Street Speed, who you'll see in the chat. I don't know if he's in there now, but Dave, thank you so much. Just submitted a generous contribution to the channel, and that's going to help a lot, and I really appreciate that. I like to put the screwdriver in manual mode and just manually tighten up the power supply a little bit more than the low clutch setting. The low clutch setting is great for the motherboard and other electronic components where you don't want to crush them or tighten them down too much. But the power supply is metal against metal here. It's a metal frame against a metal frame, so over tightening is really not an issue. This is not being shipped. This will go into a car. Martin is local to the Phoenix area, and me tightening those screws is really overkill, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then nylon zip ties and screws. These are for me. I get to keep these. Yay. I will use all of that. And this is costing Martin nothing. Basically, I'm covering, even though technically he's out of his labor warranty, it's a 1-year labor warranty. Martin's been a customer of mine for over 10 years, more than that. And so I want to make sure that I take care of him. He's given me business. You know, we upgraded his laptop. We built his wife a computer. We built him a computer. We built him a second computer. And when you have customers like that are like friends, they don't want to take advantage of you. They're like, look, I'm not comfortable with you doing this for free because I know it's well out of warranty. And I say, you know what? Let's go to a seafood restaurant, and my wife and you and your wife will all get together and we'll have dinner and you can pay for it. And he says, that sounds great. So it's really wonderful when you can have customers that you can do that with, but you can't do that with all your customers because at the end of the day, you can't pay your electric bill with a seafood dinner. But I see Martin so infrequently in that when we get to talking, we can, you know, talk for a while. And so it's good to do that over dinner, and it just kills two birds with one stone. It's a good excuse to stop working. It's good rapport, and I really enjoy his company, really. So, and the restaurant we're going to is a little pricey, you know, and the food is fantastic. So it's just a perfect scenario. And in honesty, it'll probably cost him less in the long run, but that doesn't matter. What we're doing is worth more than any value of exchange of money between him and I. This is more relationship building, and I hope that Martin will continue to not just be a customer, but to continue to be a friend as well. Never have too many friends. Unless they're asking to borrow money. So what I'm going to do right now is figure out how I want to run this big fat motherboard power cable. I guess I want to run it behind this cable. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. We'll bring it up through here. And then right onto there. Perfect. Perfect. The other cable, I was looking for a modular cable for a minute there, then I realized, oh yeah, it's connected already. Run that through there as well. And that's going to go right up through this top corner. And because I don't have that big old scythe Mugen 5, I won't have any issues plugging this into that corner because the stock Intel cooler is much easier to get around. You see, it's a real tight fit on the 200R to get that cable in there. You got to kind of jostle and wiggle and try different angles, and eventually, with enough persistence and ingenuity and creativity, you'll get it to go through. And then once it's through on the other side, this connector is vertical with the clip going towards the left edge of the board. And so we're just going to line that up, and you'll see how easy my hand gets in there. Again, if we had that big Mugen 5 on here, I'd probably have to take the motherboard out to do this, or I'd have to take the top of the heatsink off. But that's it. That's on. Job done. Power supply's in. And a part for cable management and test firing, that is a completed repair. And it costs the customer just the cost of shipping that power supply back to Corsair. I think it was 20 bucks. Power supplies are kind of heavy. I sent it through USPS priority mail. The difference between first class and priority on a package that big is like 50 cents. And of course, you get tracking information for free with priority mail. So they always suggest you track your packages or get packages with tracking. So if they're lost or not received, you have some recourse with the shipper. I've never had a package lost in the mail. I've had envelopes lost in the mail, but not packages. A couple of contributions have come in while I've been not paying attention. So let me give a few shots out. We've got a contribution from Hugh Wong, again, contributed $2. He says, nice work, Carey. These builds are very nice. Thank you. And Brendan Looney contributed £2. Thanks to both of you. Yes, this is what I think is a very critical component of reviewing and educating people, especially here on YouTube, and that is to follow up on the products. You think somebody watches a car review. Let's say the car is $40,000, and that reviewer has a day with the car, maybe. And in that one day, they're going to advise whether or not they think you should spend your hard-earned money and live with this vehicle. And for many of us, if you don't like it, it's not like you can get out of the contract. It's not like we're sitting around on a bunch of cash and we can just pay it off. You're locked into a contract, probably financing the car for 5 or 6 years, and you got to live with it. And the person who made the review, they owe you nothing. They owe you no liability, no accountability, no responsibility. They're just saying, hey man, I like the car, I had it a day, I liked it, I didn't like it. And if you're allowing that to weigh your decision, you shouldn't. Basically, if somebody lives with a product day in and day out, then they can tell you much more about the product. But just having it for a few hours isn't enough, in my opinion, to make a buying decision, unless it's just so bad out of the gate. So when it comes to me testing equipment, I always like to come back and revisit it. Even the equipment I build, right? I don't say, well, I'll do it for everybody else, but not for me. This is the system I built. You watch this system being built, the link to the videos in the video notes. Over 4 years ago, you guys saw me build this system. And it has been running ever since then with not a complaint from the customer up until 4 years and 2 months in, the power supply died. Now that's critical information, and it's critical for a number of reasons. One, is that normal? Two, did the manufacturer provide good service of the part that failed? Yes, they did. It's not a question of who makes better parts. It becomes a question now of who provides the best customer service in the rare circumstance that you need a part replaced. That differentiates a recommendation from a non-recommendation. And it can change my opinion of a product immediately. I really liked Team brand memory, T-E-A-M, and I still use it from time to time, but with a caveat. When I had to return some memory to them, they told me to contact another department. When I contacted the other department, after 3 days I got no response, and emailed the original party again and said, hey, I did what you asked me to do, it's been 3 days, I got no response, and they said, okay, we'll handle your RMA, which they should have said right from the get-go, and now I've wasted 4 or 5 days. Now if this is a customer's machine, and I've had it a week now, 5 days, that's a full business week, what's the status of my computer, Carey? You've had it a week. I'm still waiting to get a hold of the manufacturer to get your memory replaced. How would you feel if that was you? Would you want to buy another computer from me? What if you got an employee who can't work till that machine's replaced? So I used to offer loaner computers, but they take so long to reconfigure all the software the clients need, it doesn't make sense to do that anymore. The best thing I can do now is provide them with a solution at my cost, and then I go through the warranty process, and when those parts come back, they'll be spare parts I use in another build. That can work in a lot of cases, and especially if I'm building something that's made of used parts. I wouldn't sell it as new, even though the memory they often send is new memory. They're not fixing memory. They're just throwing it away or recycling it and sending you a new pair. But again, the warranty time will be diminished on it. So I couldn't sell it as new. What I can do with it is use it for testing. I can use it on discounted systems, and I can use it as memory to replace in another repair. But memory rapidly devalues. And furthermore, all the DDR3 memory I got is completely useless to me because most systems coming in for repair require DDR4. And if someone requires DDR2, I've just cleared my whole inventory of that because I don't use it anymore. It's not worth my time to fix it for what I'm going to charge for whatever value their DDR2 system has left, which is be next to nothing. So these are sort of the problems that come into having a business and having accountability and liability. You need solutions for your customers quickly, and if it costs you money, it may be worth it in the long run to spend $100 so I can make another $1,000 over the course of the next 12 months, versus saying, I'm not going to spend the $100 to fix your memory, it's your problem, I'm just the builder. And they go, that's fine, we'll just order from Dell next time. Now I've lost $1,000, or I've lost an unknown amount of money. I want to keep that customer for years and years and years and years and years. Remember, I'm hungry today. We are all hungry today, but I'm going to be hungry again tomorrow and next week and next month, and I want to make sure I'm thinking ahead so I don't jeopardize my business in exchange for what appears to be greed. And ultimately, true greed is wanting the bigger amount of money over a long period of time, not wanting the quick result today that you're going to have consequences for forever after. So something to keep in mind when you're running a business. It's a great excuse to do the right thing. It benefits you as much as it benefits them. And what's a referral worth? You can spend all this money on advertising that people ignore, whether it's print advertising, social media advertising, commercials, whatever you're using to try and promote your business. Nothing's better than a referral. And there's one way you get referrals, and that is you do a good job at a good price. You do what you say you're going to do. You meet all the expectations that you set. You tell the customer it should take this long and cost this much, and make sure you come in at or under those things you promised. And that customer has no reason to not refer you, and you have no reason to not ask for it. Say, hey, customers, you bring the customer the system on time, under budget. They go, that's great. What do I owe you? You start chit-chatting, and you go, oh, by the way, if you know anybody who needs any computers or computer repair, let me leave you a few cards. This way you can lose a couple, whatever. And if you know somebody, I'd appreciate the referral. It's super easy. It doesn't make anybody uncomfortable. It's not high pressure sales. You're not like, painting somebody into a corner. It's just casual conversation. Here, you have my business card? No? Well, let me give you like 4 or 5 of them, and that way you can lose a couple of them. And also, if you know anybody that could use my services, I'd appreciate the referral, because I don't do any advertising. That's how I get all my business. And everybody always says okay. Nobody's going to say no. Oh, I'm really happy with your service, but get the hell out of here with your referral request, you punk. They don't respond that way. They'll always be polite and say okay, and they'll take your business cards. I like to run out of business cards. That's the best thing that can possibly happen. Give them all out. That's what they're for. I hope I have to go and order more. I'll give as many business cards as you want to you. If you're like, hey, can I have 40 business cards? Yes, you can. Of course you can. And there's usually only one reason they're asking for that many, and that's because they're often advising people to use your service. All right, so these are the modular cables that were plugged in prior to us taking it apart. And we don't have to worry about where they were plugged in. If they fit, they're in the right place. Super easy. That is entirely hooked back up. Everything is ready to rock and roll. It just doesn't look pretty. So I've got a little bit of cable management to do, and that's just, we're going to tie this cable back, and then we're going to fix this little mess right here, and then the panels go back on, and I can call Martin and say, your computer's ready, and Martin will be super happy. Although he's been using that laptop we upgraded, and he can't say enough good things about how amazingly fast that laptop is, because he kind of gave up on it. He was like, yeah, it's old, it's slow. And we changed those 2 mechanical drives inside for solid states, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's like I got a whole new laptop, and it's fast now, and I like using it. And those are the best compliments. Just looking through the chat to see if I missed anything here. Paul Newman likes my shirt. Thank you, Paul. DHR Street Speed said, I love this community. Well, the community is made of people like you, Dave, and that's what makes the community so amazing. That and the fact that we kick out people that don't want to be friendly and they don't want to be social. Just get rid of them as quickly as possible. And some of those people have come back and have behaved and have realized, wow, this is a really welcoming place to be. and have changed their behavior, at least when they're here. And that's a real positive step in the right direction for communities in general, to show people you get what you give. And in the case of Dave, Dave's given a lot to the channel. And I hope you guys do check out DHR Street Speed's channel, because this is a guy who has started his own business from nothing and sold it and made a lot of money. And if you want business advice, don't take it from me, because I'm just making ends meet. Take it from a guy like DHR Street Speed in the chat who's actually done it. And he'll tell you what advice he can offer you that he thinks would benefit you, and that perhaps he wish somebody had given him, or maybe they did give it to him, and that's why he's done so well. So definitely, if you're interested in the business side of things and the potential that it holds for ordinary folks to have good ideas and to be able to make money from that, not just enough to make ends meet, but actually, you know, do really well. Check out his channel and listen to somebody who's already done it. Do not take diet advice from somebody who's fatter than you are. That's all I'm saying. Glenn Davies just contributed $5 Australian. He says, in jest, my favorite part is until next time, bye for now. Fumble, fumble, click, oops, fumble. Who does that? Sounds like somebody doesn't know what he's doing. DHR Street Speed says the School of Hard Knocks. Yeah, I still go to that school, by the way. The tuition's kind of high, but the lessons stay with you for life. All right, so I'm going to use some of these nylon zip ties here, and we're going to just clean this up. Now, by the way, I want to emphasize how amazing the camera I'm shooting with is. The amount of brightness that you guys are getting on this video is far brighter than the room that I'm in. You can actually see better than I can. That's freaky that we've got technology now that can do that. It totally blows my mind. I'm so accustomed to using these other cameras, and they're pretty much, you know, always going to be darker than whatever the subject matter is. And this will be the first time I've got a camera where I can make the whole area brighter. This camera even has a switch on it to go infrared. So I could turn all the lights out and do this in the dark. That should be a future build video. Just stupid. Let's build a computer in the dark. Somebody will say, yeah, it's a great idea. Just don't do it to my computer. Do it to your own. All right, that's looking good. We'll put one more down here. I'm just looking for these little metal bridges that are on the back of the case. And they designate, they're there specifically for cable management purposes, so that's what we're going to use them for. I don't need that many, but I tend to go a bit overkill. It just looks better. And what's a nylon zip tie cost? You know, a few pennies. Not even a few pennies. It's fractions of pennies. So I go through a lot of them. Now on these big bundles like this is going to require a bigger nylon zip tie. So I've got a different container that has 8-inch nylon zip ties for that. So let me go grab that real quick. Marvin B. from Podnuts has asked me to come on his show and interview. He and I will shoot the breeze. So I am working on scheduling a time with Marvin. If you don't know who Marvin is or Podnuts, you should definitely check it out. Marvin's a super guy. He's based out of Florida. He's a working technician and shares the stories that all of us other working technicians like to do, like Mike Smith. And he's got some good stories, definitely good stories. So if you enjoy listening to what it's like to run the repair business, some of the frustrations we have, definitely listen to Podnuts and all the guys that do the show. It's not just Marvin. There's Paco LeBron and Jeff Hallish and Matt Rainey. They're all very knowledgeable. I look up to all these guys. These are people I admire, and so it's a real honor for me to be, in their mindset. If they're thinking of somebody to interview and they think of me, that's a real honor. Big X has contributed $20. He goes, here's a Coke credit. Well, here's a moderator credit for you, my friend. Thank you so much for that. So what I'm going to do is, so I've got the 8-inch zip tie here. I'm going to try and figure out a way that I can route these cables. I think DHR Street Speed needs to let me build him a computer. That's what he needs. He needs a Carey computer. We need to build him something that'll just blow his mind. I mean, he likes fast cars. He had to like a real fast computer. I don't know what he's got now, but I know whatever I build will be better. I can do it better. That's not brag. That's just fact. And he should test me, decide for himself if I'm a liar or an exaggerator. Build him something nice for editing his video content. See, we got a bit of a bundle right here, and that may cause the side panel to bow a little bit. But that may be all I need to do for this. It looks pretty good. That was easier than I thought. Now I'm skeptical that I'm missing something because it was too easy. Denny Narano has contributed $5. Carey, can I sponsor that build? I will buy the parts and you build it in the dark. I'm interested. Let's do it. I've never tried the infrared out on this camera. I know there's a button on it somewhere to go to infrared mode. Let's see. Hold on a minute. Infrared on. I've never tried this before, so this should get interesting. And I'm going to cut the lights. Oh, wow. Holy smokes, that's pretty freaking cool. So I can barely see my hand in front of me, but you guys can see it really good. Have I told you how much I like this camera? I'm in a pitch black room right now. That is impressive. In fact, let me turn infrared off so you guys can get an idea of what a normal camera would look like in this environment. Where's the switch? I can't see it. It's too dark. I know there's a switch here somewhere. I'm feeling for it. Is that it? Darn it, I can't see. Okay, so that's the normal low light function of the camera. That's without infrared. This is what it would look like. That's how big of a difference. It can't even focus. It doesn't have enough light to focus. And now let's bring the lights back up. And of course, that's what it looks like. So it's very doable. It's certainly very doable to build a computer in the dark with this camera. And I would just have to feel for a lot of stuff. I'd have to get a flashlight out for some things like the cabling, but you know, it would be possible. Isn't that crazy? What camera is it? It's a Canon XF400. William Bailey's contributed $10. He says, here's a little something to say thank you. We got William Bailey. Bill Bailey's computer should be started tomorrow, Bill. I hope to get your computer build, get the motherboard prepped, and we'll see how far I can get if I can get an early start. I'm going to have a bunch of deliveries tomorrow, so we'll see if that happens before I go live or if I'm going to be constantly interrupted. But regardless, looking forward to your build, and thank you again for ordering from me. I know some people have been asking me, because I said I was going to sell that Be Quiet system back there, and they're asking me how much. Whatever the parts cost. I'm not putting any profit on it, so it doesn't have to be sold as is. We can modify it. We can put a graphics card in it, change the amount of RAM, change the storage. But I will put together a price of the value of the components it has now, and if you guys want to pick it up, it's a great deal because it's just the cost of components. All right, let me see if I can get this back panel on. I really should test fire this first, but I'm in a hurry and I just want to get things done. which often means I'm going to do it twice, but I feel lucky today. Feeling lucky. So you can see the way those cables are causing this panel to sort of rise up over here. And the way you fix that is you've got to reduce this bundle down by separating the cables out so they're not all on top of each other. And I'm just kind of looking at how flat I can get that. It looks like it's going to be okay if I just put some downward pressure, like closing an overfilled suitcase, basically. I do wish the 200R gave me just a little bit, maybe a ½ inch or a ¼ inch more space behind the motherboard tray for the cabling. It's just a little bit shallow. On a build like this, it's enough, just barely enough, as you can see. And then I check the edges. I can see this side's not going in right. So let's pull it back, seat it down in both. Kind of a pain. Okay, that is perfect. And now I can use 2 of these thumb screws, and we'll secure that panel so it's not going to go anywhere. Perfect. Now let's test fire. Let's make sure this new power supply works. So I'm going to plug the keyboard and mouse dongle in right up here at the top. I need an HDMI cable to hook up to your monitor at home. That's going to go into the graphics card down here. He's got an EVGA GTX 980 Ti in there, which was pretty big bucks 4 years and 2 months ago. And I need a power cable. I'm probably going to knock this over with the power cable, so I'm going to move my Coke back over here. And let me get the driver out of the way. Martin can have this. I'm keeping this. I'm keeping this. I'm done with this. I should be done with the wire cutters. I should be done with the flashlight. Look how organized I am. Look at me go. Me busy? I'm not busy. Power switch is on. And we'll flip the switch on. Oh, it starts. It's a good sign. And let's go to camera 2 so we can see what's going on. That's a good start. Remember, when he brought it to me, the system was completely dead. With a fully modular power supply, I would not have had to redo any of the cable management unless the power supply was out of warranty and he went with a different manufacturer. But even then, if you do enough research, you might still be able to use the same cables. Why does that look like Windows 8? It's Windows 10 Pro. I wonder if it's not UEFI. Is that why we're seeing it like that? Let's restart the computer into the BIOS. I think we already, did we check the BIOS? I don't remember. We'll go to troubleshoot, no, we go to recovery, advanced startup. Oh. Apparently 2 things are trying to run at once. Troubleshoot, advanced. Startup settings. No, that's not what I want. It doesn't look like UEFI is enabled on this system, because there should be the option under advanced to start into the BIOS. And given that I saw the Windows logo, those sort of appear to be indicators that we're not in UEFI. So that's okay. I mean, for Martin's use, he probably wouldn't notice a difference, but it just bothers me that it's not optimized. The reason Windows says it's not activated is I have it not plugged it into the network. As soon as I plug it into the network and the operating system can communicate with Microsoft, it should just be fine. It should activate automatically. So looking through this, F20G, is that the latest BIOS? This is an H170D3HP. Let's take a look and see what the latest BIOS is. Pretty sure I did this already, but we'll check again. H370, what did I say, HD3P? Is that what I said? That's from Gigabyte, of course. And under support, under BIOS, the latest BIOS is F14A. And we've got something newer than that. We've got F20G. How did we get something newer? That's odd. Let me grab his keyboard and take another look here. Full screen logo is enabled. First boot is that. Second boot can be disabled. We don't need to have a second boot device. Fast boot, we can turn that on and speed things up a little bit with ultra fast. Do we have XMP on? Nope, we can turn XMP on in theory. What's the difference between Profile 1 and Profile 2? It's not telling me. Sure would like to know why I've got two profiles, which one's which. Where are my XMP profiles identified? Internal graphics we can disable. We're not using those. And save and exit. And let's see what it does. I'll plug the network into it, and that should fix the Windows activation once it phones home. Now, if the system doesn't restart, it'll be because one of those, that XMP profile is not compatible. So, but again, it's important to be patient. Let those BIOS settings save. It bothers me to see that little 4 squared window thing because I haven't seen that in a long time, and I'm guessing that's my notification that I'm not in UEFI. And that would require a full new installation of Windows 10, and then Martin would have to reinstall all of his apps. It's not worth it because he's unlikely to see any difference with the speed or performance of the computer. So it doesn't make any sense for us to do that. Now that we're back at Martin's desktop here, we can go to Windows Update. Oh, he doesn't have 1909. Let's go ahead and put 1909 on there. This will take a few minutes and we'll let that run. In the meantime, let me see what's going on here in the chat room. A new version of Glary Utilities is available. I don't know why he's got that. Remind me later. Robin points out I said H370 when I meant to say H170. Yeah, that sounds like something I would do. I think, did I click on the wrong motherboard? I did. That's why the BIOS numbers don't line up. Good eye, Robin. It's supposed to be a Z170, and for some reason, Google pointed me. I'm so used to Google doing such a good job. Oh, my bad. I typed H370. I'm still going to blame Google. There's the H170. Now let's see what the latest BIOS is. Back under support. Keeping me honest. Good job. Latest BIOS is F20G, which was released March 9th, 2018, and that is what we have. We have F20G. So we do have the latest BIOS installed. Thank you for that correction. Solved a little bit of confusion for me. Looks like we've got a new GeForce driver, but we'll wait for Windows 1909 to go in first, and we'll do the GeForce driver second. We've got 806 people watching live. Welcome in, everybody. I hope that you enjoy the show. Right now, I'm using your monitors. I'm using all 806 monitors of everybody watching at the moment, 816. So you can tell everybody you know a guy who's got 816 monitors connected to his computer. It's true. It's absolutely true. With very little latency, by the way. I mean, on my end. Maybe not on your end. Might be about 2 minutes of latency, actually. But that's because I've got DVR mode enabled, and DVR mode allows you to rewind this live video to see what you might have missed. You don't have to wait. Let me go back to my screen so I can see what I'm doing. Whoops, what did I do? Let's close that. Let's restart. I think it wanted to restart. Update and restart. There we go. That's what happens when I'm watching the delayed feed instead of watching the live feed. And it's why I need two monitors, because it keeps happening to me. Every time I go to look in the chat, it puts that window in focus. And so I'm seeing the delayed video. And in the OBS software, which shows me the actual live video, that gets put behind the other screen, and I have to bring it up manually, and it screws me up. People are pointing out that the PC clock is off. Again, that will fix itself. We'll check it. So thanks for bringing it to my attention, and I will double check that. But first, I want to make sure this update goes in properly. Yeah, the clock does seem to be a little fast. There it goes, just fixed it. Very nice. I hate that I can't have multiple control windows open because I was checking Windows Update. Let's do it again. And when I went to check the time, it replaced that window, so I should have used the back button, but it should have opened another window so I didn't lose what I was working on. That says I'm up to date. There's no way I got 1909 that quickly. That can't be right. Let's check. Let's go to right-click on my computer, go to Properties. Windows is activated. That solves that. 32 gigs of RAM. That looks good. And then we'll go down here and we'll just type WinVer, W-I-N-V-E-R. And it says we've got build 1909. How did that happen so quickly? That's weird. Well, okay. Seems happy. If it's happy, I'm happy. So we're good with that. And then there was a new NVIDIA driver. We can come over here and grab the latest NVIDIA driver. Well, we've got it. Make sure it's all updated. He's running, what, 44112. So let's go to Google Chrome. And then let's go to NVIDIA. Drivers, GeForce drivers. And then we'll bring up, this is 900 series. 980 Ti, that's correct. 441.87 is the latest. So we'll download that. I'm loving this faster internet connection. I mean, it's flying pretty quick now. I remember there were days when it said it was going to take an hour. Although even that wasn't right. That just meant my internet was something between my internet and NVIDIA's servers was not happy. So let's go ahead and get this installed real quick. So 441.87, and what did I say it was coming from? 441, it's a pretty minor update from the looks of it. 441.12 is what he has. So, yeah, not sure what that fixes, but we'll take it. It can't beat the price. Dale Maluke has contributed $20. He says, have a couple of Cokes on me. Hey, thanks, Dale. Not quite sure how to say your last name. Maluke? Maluk? Maluke? Maluke! You done messed up now, Ron? Sorry, I'm just amusing myself. Don't mind me. Balake. You mean Blake? Oh, don't you mess with me, Balake. Robin says, I think there are Intel updates too. Well, you know what? We can check for that. We can throw the Intel updater on and see what it says. Kind of curious. I want to go back to the properties here. Since I disabled the onboard graphics, does it say all the RAM is available? Yep. So if I turn the onboard graphics back on, then it'll say so much is usable of the 32. You'll notice it doesn't say that here when I've disabled it in the BIOS. Just FYI. Onboard graphics steals memory. Matt Foster's contributed £2. He says, I love that Ron skit. Yeah, it's a great little comedy skit from Key and Peele. These guys are hilarious. Getting that ASMR of the Coke being poured into the glass. Just emptying that can. It's Coke number 3 today. That's it for me, man. I can't do any more of this stuff. I'm going to have brown kidneys before too long. What's wrong with brown kidneys? You're racist? All right, driver's installed, and let's check out the Intel driver update utility. I've already got a quick tips video on this, but nothing better than showing it live on a real customer's machine and show you how easy it is to use, and how user-friendly it is, assuming it's not already on here. Let's take a look. Yeah, I don't see it. So we'll just type in Intel driver update. I don't want any of that stuff. I want it to come from www.intel.com. That's how I know the link is good right from the get-go. Hit download now for the driver and support assistant, and then execute that so it installs. Agree to the license terms. install, accept. I didn't have to accept the second thing. That's you're giving them permission to monitor any crashes or issues so they can help improve the software. You can decline that second one if you don't want to participate. Software is installed. Let's launch it. Close that other browser tab. And now it's going to look for any drivers, any Intel hardware drivers for any Intel hardware. That includes any, if we have Intel networking, Intel chipset, Intel SATA drivers, you'll see. We'll scroll down. It says one software update is available, and it's right here. It's for the chipset. That includes the hard drive controller. Some people think that they don't get the chipset updates this way, but this is it's located under storage. But you cannot get just the AHCI controller by itself. You have to get the whole chipset. And then once you have the chipset and you extract it, then you can manually go into Device Manager and then manually update the drive controller. But why would you do that? Just grab the whole chipset and hit Install Now and let it do everything. And you'll see it's going to come up here. This is the installation framework. You're about to update the following products. Intel, oh, so this is not the chipset, this is the IRST. So we'll go ahead and click on that and hit agree and hit next. I'm probably going to need to reboot after this installs. Let's see. Carey Husband, can I still run Windows 10 for free? I don't know. If you're asking if you can upgrade to Windows 10 using a Windows 7 or Windows 8 product key, yes. If you're asking if you can download Windows 10 and install it fresh with no product key, yes, but there's a couple things it won't let you do until you activate it. So in short, the answer is yes, but with those conditions. Thomas Robinson's contributed £1.99. Thank you, Thomas. Is the support from Intel free? The utility that I'm using is free, yes. In fact, I ran it on an AMD system because I realized the AMD system, the motherboard had an Intel network interface card. Didn't think AMD motherboards would have an Intel NIC, but this one did, and so I was able to run the Intel driver update utility. And if you don't like the driver update utility, just uninstall it. It's free, it's no big deal. It won't cause any harm to your computer. It's not going to put any questionable drivers. It won't put the wrong drivers on. It doesn't make those mistakes like those other third-party driver utilities that are completely unnecessary these days. Okay, we're back in. Let's empty that recycle bin out. Let's run Storage Sense on this computer. Yeah, see, people don't empty their recycle bin. Look at this mess. And Storage Sense would do this as well. We'll just skip any files it's having any issues with. That's fine. And let's run Storage Sense and make sure that's configured properly to clear up old versions of Windows. Like it was asking about rolling back to Windows 7. That shouldn't even be an option anymore. Let's see, temporary files. 5 gigs of temporary files, holy smokes. Show more categories, view. Where's the run now? Why does this look different? I mean, he's barely using any space. 62.3 gigs is all he's using. So even doing a backup on this wouldn't take very long. Optimization will do a trim on a solid state. So if I say optimize, you'll see it's trimming the drive, not defragmenting it. But D is a mechanical drive, and if I hit optimize, then it'll defragment. Windows is smart enough for that. You don't have to manually set it anymore. Storage Sense. Configure Storage Sense or run it now. We want to run it every month. And we want to clean up old versions of Windows, which it's not even offering here. We'll hit clean now. We'll free up even more space. Even though he's got plenty of space, he doesn't need these temporary files. So he's going to have even more space. And I would do this before I back up the machine, because otherwise you're backing up 5 gigs of temp files. Why would you do that? And that was quick. It's already done. And what is he using for a drive? Is that a Samsung? Do we have the Samsung Magician software installed on here? We do. And it's got an old firmware version. So we're gonna, I can do one of two things. I can update the firmware with this old version of Samsung Magician, or I can load the new version of Samsung Magician and show you how it's changed. But you know what? I'm right here right now, and I'm feeling a bit lazy, and I want to get things done. So I'm going to hit update, and this is going to update the firmware of the solid state drive, and that's going to require the machine to be powered off, because when we turn it back on, as far as the computer's concerned, that's a whole new drive now. Now, Samsung will tell you you should always back up your data because you could lose everything. That's just boilerplate. You should always have a backup at all times regardless. I've never lost data from during a firmware update on a drive. I don't do firmware updates on hard disk drives. Those have never worked out well for me. But on a solid state drive, they can improve performance, and that's the main reason why I do it. So now it's going to completely power the computer off. Now the computer's off. I'm waiting for the fans to stop spinning just because I want to make sure that when I turn it on, the power from the capacitors has been drained enough. And it's going to recognize a brand new solid state drive as far as it's concerned, but it should still boot to Windows and there should be no data loss. It's a pretty painless experience, and that Samsung Magician software, to me, is what makes Samsung solid state drives worth buying, because it just turns that into something so painless. You can have a firmware update that improves the performance of your solid state drive from another manufacturer, and you may never know it. Or other manufacturers never update their firmware. So does that mean they never had any problems, or that just means they don't care and they just want you to buy a newer model? So with regards to the Samsung Magician, this is an old version of the software. We'll fire it up one more time. And if we click the little eye with the circle around it, it'll show that version 6.0 is available. So we hit update. Now this is just updating the software. And this version, from version 5 to version 6, is very, very different in how it looks and how it works. Although a lot of the same menu options are there, they look very different and are located in different places. This is a relatively fast install. It's not a very big program. It should take 2 minutes, and we'll be back up and running with the very different looking version of Samsung Magician here momentarily. Now, because this is over 4 years old, this computer, we did not put an NVMe drive in it. They were far too much money. It's amazing how much has changed in that short period of time. So that's just SATA, and you can see it's still blazingly fast. That's why I try and tell you guys, stop being so fixated on benchmark numbers, because the reality is most of these benchmark numbers don't show a whole lot of difference in real life with regards to how long you're waiting for your applications to start or Windows to start. But if you're doing some really intensive tasks like video rendering, photo editing, you may certainly see the difference there. Or if you're constantly moving large files around. John Williams says, good evening, Carey. Just love your show and chat. I like your bowling shirts too. I used to bowl years ago. Thanks, John. Thanks for joining us here. Ooh, it's running nice and quick, I can tell you that. I'm very happy with the performance. See, if we went through the process of enabling UEFI, and I'm assuming UEFI is not enabled, it's really not going to make much difference in performance. It could offer a little better security on that side, but Martin's a bright guy. He understands computers. He used to be an engineer for, I think he said Boeing or Lockheed Martin. He's a smart guy. So he's not your average computer user that we typically see, that I typically see. Wow, it must like a really high resolution because that's filling up the whole screen. So now if we want to check for updates, it's all the way at the bottom. Right down here it says update right at the bottom. And apparently you need a much higher resolution to see it. That's a little disappointing. I can't resize the window. This is forced. Look at that. And no matter what I do to lift it, it just drops right back down. But there's no more updates. We've checked it. We know that we've got the serial number of the drive. Just in the drive information window, we can see both drives, the Western Digital mechanical drive, where it's limited to what it can read. We can go to the performance benchmark. We can start that. We should see numbers around 550 from a SATA-based solid-state drive, regardless of who makes it, as long as it's set at 3. Peter wants to know if I set up over provisioning. That's clearly not a problem. He's got a 1 terabyte drive and he's only using 60 gigs. So over provisioning is not required for this customer. He will not notice it whether we set it up or we don't. So no, we don't need to. And remember, the drive is 4 years old. This is a over 4-year-old solid state drive, and it's running beautifully. I will, however, turn rapid mode back on when you replace or update the Samsung Magician software. As the warning message stated, it was going to disable rapid mode. So I ought to remember to turn that back on. And some people don't notice a difference. Other people do when it comes to rapid mode. It just kind of depends on how sensitive they are to the performance of the computer, and again, what they use the computer for. And that's why rapid mode is not forced. It's not like you get it whether you like it or not. So we're about 70% done on this performance check, and we'll find out what our read and write numbers are. Again, I'm expecting in the ballpark of 550 megabytes per second. And it could be a little more, it could be a little less, but if we're in that ballpark, we're good to go. And I'm referring to the read and write numbers on the left side, not on the right side. Paul says he sees no difference when using rapid mode on his solid state drive. Yeah, you know, it doesn't seem to hurt to have it on. And if you've got more than 8 gigs of memory, why not use the memory for something, you know? So yeah, 542 on the read and 504 on the write. And that's over 4 years ago, this technology, and it's still the same today. If you buy a SATA-based solid state drive and plug it into your modern Z390 motherboard, those are the numbers you can still expect today, just so you know. This technology is not moving at the pace it once moved. We can optimize the drive. That's just going to run trim on it. We already did that. We'll turn rapid mode on, click OK, and then it's going to want to restart for rapid mode to be enabled. Now, when the machine comes back up, if I run the performance test again, the numbers will probably be between 2,000 and 3,000 on the read and writes. But that's because it's reporting a cached speed. That's not a lie. It's not lying to you. When you repeatedly load the same files or do the same things, that is the equivalent speed that you will get with rapid mode. But that's true of any cache. That's what a cache does. That's what it's supposed to do. It's not manipulative or deceiving in any way, shape, or form. Some people, they got to find a reason to complain, I guess. And I'll have you know that's my job. How dare you try and take away my job? I'm very good at it. Nobody can complain like me. I'm going to let it just restart on its own because, otherwise I'd have to reach over and click the mouse, and that's just too much effort. Carey, have you seen the fake version of malware by... No, I don't. So look, I don't know where people are going to get fake software, but I can only imagine you're getting it from somewhere you know better, right? It's a BitTorrent or piracy site, I don't know. But if you go to Malwarebytes website and download the software from Malwarebytes, you will always get the legitimate version every time. So people get what they give. Somebody's out trying to steal a piece of software, and then that piece of software ends up infecting your computer. Well, you're kind of asking for it, But no, I'm not aware of any fake version of it. But I've seen enough fake versions of software in my day. I've pirated software in the past. It's not worth it. It just comes back to haunt you. You think you got a working piece of software, and then it doesn't update right, or it doesn't update at all. And then features stop working, or new features come out that you don't have. It just creates a whole mess. And then you decide, oh, you know what, I'll buy the legit software, I like it. But because of the changes you made in your registry or your host file, you're still not getting updates because you just shot yourself in the foot and you have to undo everything you did. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Okay, so Magician has been updated. What version of VLC player does he have? Let's make sure that there's no update to that. You have the latest version. Wonderful. I think that pretty much does it. He's running MCSoft, so we know he's clear of any viruses or malware. I think we're good to go. What was the CPU in here? I forgot. Core i7 6700, is that what that says? Yeah, so think about this. So the Core i7 6700 runs at 3.4 gigahertz. And that the Intel i9 90-900KS we just did on the previous build, does anybody remember what it ran at? I think it was 3.6, is that right? And remember, this machine is 4 years old. That's why, and again, I'm going to say it as many times as I need to say it, that's why the machines I build today should last 8 years. We're 4 years into an 8-year life, and it's easily got 4 years. I think we can agree. From what you're seeing on the specs of this computer, it would be fully reasonable to expect a minimum of another 4 years from this machine. And there's your proof. And let's see, let's go back to camera 1 over here. There I am. And so I just need to put that final side panel on here. We know that the D drive is hooked up and working. I'm sure that the optical drive is working. I can always check it by right-clicking and choosing eject. And if the drawer opens, I know it's working. I've got Martin's panel right here, and it's got a little bit of dust on it. So this is a good opportunity to just clean it for the customer. Remember, the customer is never going to see this. But it's just a little touch, doing the right thing. And that machine will get dusty in time, but we don't have to give it back with dust, do we? I mean, if you've already gone through the effort taking the panel off. How much extra effort is this to clean it? How many seconds did that take me? I'm sure it was under a minute. I'm sure no matter how busy you are, you can find 1 minute. It's not a huge sacrifice. And even though the customer will never notice that, you know what you're giving them is much better than the way they brought it. And that's what's important. My little cup can go in the sink, so that can be washed. And then I need my screwdriver, which I guess I put back in the drawer. There's one. There's two. That computer's done. It's out of here. Now we get to move on to the next one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take another little break. And I'm going to bring up the Be Quiet Pure Base 500, which has all the pretty colors and everything on the RGB. I have to do the cable management. I don't like doing cable management. I certainly don't like doing it live, but I am so buried in work right now, I'm going to do it right now. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to come back with yet another live video, give me another 10, 15 minutes to clear the counter and get things set up for the cable management, which should hopefully be a short video. And then I can get the panels on that and get some final shots, and then my sister can edit this all together. Not this, but that other build. She'll have the final shots to end that video with. So busy, 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 go, go, go. I will see you guys here. I hope you'll come back. Give me about 10, 15 minutes for another live video coming up right after whatever time it takes me to reset my set. And in the meantime, we can go back to camera 2, and I will shut this computer down. There we go. And back to camera 1. Perfect. Okay, so again, I hope you guys will join me, come back, give me 10, 15 minutes, I'll be right back. And then we'll do some cable management on a whole different computer, computer number 3 today. Take a breath. Who needs dinner? I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. Thanks for watching.